Happy Monday, guys, and welcome to PuckTime here on WagerTalk TV. We have a handful of games to break down, and it's every single game on today's board. Rangers, Panthers, Preds, Jets, and Utah taking on the Seattle Kraken. Of course, we will mention some best bets at the end, some promotional stuff, and I'll be back with my prop bets tomorrow with a small slate. I'm just focused on the sides and totals today, guys. No prop bets for me today, but Carm, as I always say to you, when there's going to be a small slate, I want there to be at least good games. And I think we actually have some good games here on this small slate, man. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, we do have some good games on this small slate of action, which we're going to get to shortly. Obviously, it's the Rangers uh, and the Panthers, Nashville and Winnipeg. And then we're going to finish it off with Utah against the Seattle Kraken. And hopefully we can find some best bets along the way. The Andrew's props segment will return on Tuesday, none today. We're going to break down these three games, Andrew. A pretty good weekend, I'm going to say, before I get into this. 14, 5, and 1 for me, almost 20 units across Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm miffed because I always say you need a little bit of puck luck. The game San Jose and Calgary on Saturday night. I had the over 6 in that game. Askarov, where did this guy come from, Andrew? This guy is a good goalie, 22 years old. Maybe San Jose's found their goalie of the future. This guy stood on his head against the Calgary Flames. The expected goals post game, I looked at it, was 8. 8 combined goals. That game finished 3-1. One of those goals was an empty netter. He absolutely just shut down Calgary, despite the fact they were winning. Calgary could have won that game 6-1, easily 6-2. But I got a little bit of luck in that Atlanta game because I had last night because I had the over in that one, over 47.5, and they tied up at 24. So I was pretty happy on that fourth down from the goal line. So we'll take the good, we'll take the bad, and we move on to Monday. Andrew, you look at this one, and you would normally not see minus 195 on the Florida Panthers, like when they're playing the New York Rangers. But this year is a different year, Andrew. The Rangers started 12-4-1 their first 17 games of the season. Since they are 4-14. Now, you slap a different team label on a 4-14, like let's say the Buffalo Sabres, who are 3-13 their last 16 games, and you think, well, it's a bottom half team. You don't expect much from the Sabres. You don't expect much from Columbus. It's what you don't expect this from the New York Rangers. 4-14. The media is all over them, Andrew. Larry Brooks, who writes for, I think it's the New York Daily, when the papers start writing about Laviolette, he's pretty much done. So whether this is a hot take or not, Laviolette's gone. I think Drury gets rid of him after this game. I think they start the new year with either Mike Pekka or Phil Housley behind the bench. One of the two interns. Chris Drury's got to do it. This team has absolutely quit on their coach. Nobody is playing for him right now. Where are you going with this game? I will give you my thoughts on it, but I want to know how you're going to play this one.
You know, Carm, it makes me laugh because, as you know, I've talked about it with you before on the show. I'm very anti-firing the coach. Sometimes it works after you get rid of your coach, a team catches fire. But let's take a team like the Boston Bruins, for example, right? When they lost to Columbus just a couple days ago, did they look like a different team than they looked like when they had Montgomery? No. They looked like the same old team. And yes, they bounced back the next day. But sometimes a team looks different when they get a new coach. And I'd say for St. Louis, it's looked successful. For Edmonton last year, it worked. But something else has to change with this New York Rangers team. You know, the biggest move they've made is trading away their captain, who was eating up cap space, and then trading away one of their younger players. They haven't really added anybody. I think firing the coach, sure, it could help. It could change things up. But New York has a really bad track record right now of just trading or firing way too many coaches, and it's a bad look on that team. Now, when it comes down to this game here, the funny thing is Yeah, sure. New York, they haven't been playing good hockey whatsoever. And as you state, Carm, we're kind of shocked to see the odds of this game the way it is. You know, a lot of people are going to think to themselves, how are the Panthers this heavy favorites? Well, guys, did you not realize, New York last place in the Metropolitan Division? I thought coming into this season, Carm, the Washington Capitals would be improved. I didn't think they'd be first place in the division. You look at Philadelphia, they've got some wins under their belt. We know how great Carolina can be. Pittsburgh, they're getting some wins every now and then. Nice upset win yesterday. So this team being last, obviously they're underachieving. But then you look at Florida, back-to-back games where they were shut out 4-0 against Tampa Bay, and then shut out against my Montreal Canadiens in a goaltender's rookie debut. Jakob Dobish shut out the defending Stanley Cup champion. So, Carm, I always talk about these system plays. I always talk about betting a team first period over off a shutout. Well, it works even better if you decide not to play it in that next game, which I did, and then they get shut out again. So here I am with a back-to-back spot here where a team was off shutouts twice in a row. Of course, you're going to have a New York Rangers team desperate to get back on track. And yeah, New York didn't get shut out, but they did get pounded by Tampa 6-2. So we could easily come here and say these teams want to play better defensively. They have two good goaltenders. The fact of the matter is defense hasn't been working. Goaltending hasn't been great, especially for Shesterkin since signing that new contract. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Over 1.5 first period. It's only minus 130. We're going to see desperation all over the ice tonight. Wouldn't talk anybody off the full game over, but 1.5 to the over in the first period. I like that play.
I'm surprised, Andrew. I thought you might be coming with a team total play on this one because the team total on Florida is 3.5. I get the totals at 6. And you talked about, they got a couple goals in that Tampa Bay game, but they were never in it. They were absolutely Tampa took control early and they were done. They're playing undisciplined hockey. And normally you can look at a team and maybe find some bright spots in the last few games that shows or highlights. And I talk about this all the time, the highlights that this team might be turning around. I don't see it here. It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if they absolutely get bombed tonight and lose a game like 5-1, 6-1, where Drury has to do something. This team, you look at the players. You've got Zibanejad doesn't look the same. Panarin doesn't look the same. Whether you want to say they've lost the step or not. We talked about like Kreider. You look at Adam Fox. You look at the Rangers as a whole, and you look at teams, and this one just seems like they've given up. Shesterkin gets that big contract, so he's got his money. They just aren't playing well. I can't find anything in their last few games that would tell me, they somehow went into Dallas and surprised Dallas Stars 3-1. But I think they're like 2-8 their last 10 games, and one of those wins was against the Buffalo Sabres. So during that 13-game losing run, I can't find any positive that would tell me the Rangers have a shot tonight. Now, I get it. Once you hit the ice, anyone can win on any given night. It's kind of like the any given Sunday. But I just don't see anything that points to the Rangers. I think they know that a few more flat games by them and Laviolette's gone. When the media starts to turn on the coach as well too, and saying that the players have quit, and it's usually a very bad sign. After the Florida game tonight, they return home and they've got to start the new year, January 2nd. They've got the Boston Bruins coming in town. They've got Washington, Chicago, and Dallas. They've got some home games mixed in with a couple road games in Washington and Chicago. And you talk about, Andrew, you've talked about it before. Sometimes making that coaching change before somewhat of a light schedule is a good thing because teams grab a few wins and all of a sudden turn the corner. They need to turn the corner, man, because the last place in the Metro for this team in New York for that payroll is unacceptable. And we have a lot of Ranger fans. I know we have a lot of Ranger fans in our live chat normally. Something's got to change. But But it's my hot take, but I say this is the last game for Laviolette, especially if they lose. Even if they win tonight, he's a lame duck at this point right now. The team's not playing for him. I would lay the 1.5, take the plus 130, and take Florida. So that's my thoughts. Any follow up?
I just wanted to add, Carmen, it's a great point by you. I think we talked about this last week a little bit, maybe, about the schedule coming up for Florida. Because, like you said, a lot of times I would talk about a light schedule coming up. But if you look at some of these games, light schedule for New York, and if you look at some of the games that they lost recently, that's kind of the disappointing thing. It's not like they've been losing these marquee matchups. That's the scary part for them, right? Is that they've been losing games against teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and, some weaker opponents. So when you look at their, I kind of figured without even looking, I was like, you know what? I bet they're going to have a tough schedule in the new year because they've been playing easy teams. And then you take a look at the schedule, and as you mentioned, they're going to play Carolina, Boston, Washington, all these tough teams in the Metro. So life isn't going to get any more fun. It's not going to get any easier. But I'll throw it back to you with this, Carm. Obviously, you can't fire general managers. Don't fire themselves. It takes a lot for a GM to get fired. They go through coaches first. But was it a real bad thing for them to get rid of their captain? Because it seems like everybody liked him on the team. There was no animosity. It's almost like they wanted to get rid of the contract. Is that something that you can really do during the regular season? In my opinion, that is an off-season move that you make. And for them to just dump him over to Anaheim like that, the way that they did, that's got to disrupt some chemistry. It feels like this team is not a team right now. And also, like I said, I can't argue with your Florida take because obviously that kind of it coincides with me liking the first period over and some goals in this game because New York is getting a team extremely pissed off, for lack of better words here. It's not like they're getting a team in a good spot here. They're getting a team that's been shut out back-to-back games by pretty much the same score. It's not like New York is getting a soft spot. So can't argue your puck line there, but any quick thoughts about the Trouba situation? Because I think that actually does play a real factor in this team right now. The team is not a real team right now.
I think it's one of those ones where if the players themselves like him and they move him, it just brings more animosity into that dressing room, and they start thinking maybe it should have been. It's not him that should have gone. Maybe it should have been someone else. And if you look back at Peter Laviolette and his past coaching, good first seasons, terrible sophomore seasons, and that's what he's having with the New York Rangers right now. He's not having a very good sophomore season with them, and sometimes what happens in that first year, it wears thin in the second year, and I think they've just had it. Like this one seems. Here's the problem, Andrew. This one just seems too obvious. It is like you see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're running towards it because you're like, I am going to cash this ticket until you find out that light is a train heading your way. And something happens tonight and the Rangers surprise you and get a victory tonight. But even if they do, my take remains that Laviolette's going to be gone from this team. What better way for the Rangers to do it than two blowout losses in Florida? Laviolette stays there, doesn't travel back with the team, and starts his vacation early because it's 4-14. I'm sorry, it's not the beginning of the season where teams like the Edmonton Oilers started terrible last season, fired their coach, and had a great season. This team started 12-4-1 and is 4-14, and you cannot equate that. You can't say this has anything to do with injuries because Shesterkin's been healthy all season. The defense for most of this season so far has been healthy. They're just not playing for their coach. They aren't. We'll see what it looks like tonight. I'm going to watch this game tonight because I'm curious to see what how this game turns out, and then look for the news afterwards. Maybe they fire him between periods. But with that said, Andrew, we've got a good game as the second game, Winnipeg and Nashville. This one's Nashville's been taking some money on this one overnight. Winnipeg opened at about 150, 160. It's down to 135 plus 115. The total sits here at 6. I have to think that that Nashville, until they get it going, and it looked like they were getting it going before the break. They had a very good 4 or 5 games before the break, that Christmas break, and then came out of that Christmas break, and they weren't prepared. They were very sloppy against the St. Louis Blues and losing that game 7-4. You fall behind early in an NHL game, a couple goals in the first 10 minutes or so. It's so tough to come back at times. I think we're going to see a steady diet of sorrows for the next little while for them. Hopefully, he gets a start tonight. Hellebuck should get the start for Winnipeg. Andrew, I'm going to go a little different here because I'm drawing a line through that St. Louis game. And I think that Nashville is starting to turn the corner because I saw a lot of positives before the Christmas break. And if there's one team they play well against, and if you look at the history between these two, the recent history is this Winnipeg team. They even beat this Winnipeg team earlier this year in Nashville. I'm going to take the first period. Preds are plus 110 in the first period. Their last 10 games, they are 5-2-3. They're profitable in the first periods, and that's has a lot to do with their turnaround. They're starting games a lot better. They've had the lead 5 times. They've only trailed twice. It's been a profitable situation, and I'm going to look for that tonight. They're going to have to be good because this is a very good Winnipeg team. So I'm taking the Preds plus money first period, plus 110 on the 2-way money line. Your thoughts?
First period, I like that, and they have, like you said, they have been playing well, a little bit better at least lately. But one thing I'm going to go off here, Carm, and this is kind of just a very recency bias type of play here. A team giving up 7 goals post-holiday break like this team, they're going to want to bounce back immediately with the defensive performance. You mentioned that we're going to see a healthy serving of UC Saros moving forward. They had a couple of days off. They come off a game where they give up 7 goals against not only, not really a high perennial offensive team, the St. Louis Blues at that. Giving up 7 goals to the Blues is a bit different than giving up 7 goals to more of an elite team. I like the under 5.5 in this game here. We got 2 elite goaltenders going head to head. When I take a look at these teams, of course, we have seen overs hitting in some Nashville games recently, but 6 of the last 9 games between these two teams have gone under the total. We've seen 11 of the last 14 meetings for the Winnipeg against a Western Conference opponent go under the total. And when these two teams get together, it's a lot of neutral zone time spent. It's a lot of time in the middle of the ice. It's a very low-scoring style of hockey. And I just think when I look at how both these teams have been playing lately, even though there was that slip-up for Nashville in that game against St. Louis, it's defensive hockey is what I'm seeing right now. Nashville, in the month of December, they rank number 5 overall in expected goals allowed. They're giving up the 5th fewest chances in the month of December, and I feel like that can really help them out in this game in particular, especially coming off that embarrassing loss. I mean, Carm, we look at things in 2 ways, right? Coming off the holiday break, you have energy. You really should be focused. You should be locked in defensively, or it's the legs aren't there. You had too much Christmas dinner, and it's an offensive goal fest. Well, that's what we saw in the Nashville game. We didn't really see that as much in the Winnipeg game against Ottawa. But when some teams have a bad defensive performance, kind of you see a string of games like that in a row. When teams like Winnipeg, Minnesota, and of course this very Nashville team have a bad defensive game, typically I look for an immediate defensive response. So with that being said, I like the under 5.5 here. Under 5.5 can be tough to take these days. We don't see as many 5.5s as we once did betting the NHL, but I like this one here to be a defensive game, Carm. So, hey, there's a way that you and I can certainly both cash tickets here with your first period and my full game wager. But I like defense in this game, and I'm sure that kind of helps your style out as well with your play, Carm. Looking for more of a lower scoring game.
It's just, Andrew, like sometimes you see, and I talk about it, and you only see it if you watch the games. You see how the game flow is going. You see whether they're making the mistakes. You see whether they're playing a 200-foot game. It's kind of like Brian Leonard, Marco, and I were at the Vegas game, and and Vancouver looked visibly tired in the third period. The Golden Knights were getting so much.
Oh, I think we just lost Carm there. He was in the middle of delivering some info there. He looked like very serious, but we lost him. We'll get him back very, very soon here, guys. But again, taking a look at some of these stats and some of these numbers from these teams recently, we're going to look at before the break, because that's what I was looking at the most with Nashville. They pick up a 3-2 win over the LA Kings, minus 110. All right. Pick up a 5-2 victory, plus 100 over the Carolina Hurricanes. And then as favorites, minus 135, they lose 7-4 against the St. Louis Blues. So, like I mentioned, there's certain teams that you kind of want to just follow the trend, right? If they're not playing well defensively, you don't really expect that to change. But for a team like Nashville, they're a team that kind of has that immediate response, and we see that quite a bit with them. Guys, while Carm is kind of getting back on track with us and just resetting his computer there, let's take a quick look at some futures here, because looking at the conferences right now, the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets are 8-1 to win the West. All right, this is a team that's had an elite season. Looking at the overall numbers to win the Stanley Cup, we have this Winnipeg team at 16-1 overall. All right. And the teams that are ahead of them, the Lightning, 16-1. Well, they're the same. Colorado, 13-1. Vegas, 12. Toronto, 11. Dallas, 10. And then the top four teams right now in Stanley Cup contention as far as the odds: Oilers, 650. Panthers, 7-1. Hurricanes, 750. And the Devils at plus 900. So I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know what you guys are thinking about as far as NHL future odds, whether it's kind of more of a long shot, whether it's more of the top 4 or top 5 teams. Because, some people might say, hey, look, you kind of missed the boat on some teams. But I do think with this Winnipeg team, they started off really strong. And then they kind of hit a bump in the road. So if you want to take that 16-1, right now, I wouldn't talk anybody off it, because I really don't think that number will get any bigger. I think that this team has a pretty good schedule coming up. Like I said, I trust both these teams to win low-scoring games. The Nashville Predators absolutely buried themselves with a horrible start to their season, and it just hasn't gotten much better. They're one of those teams that had such high expectations, high hopes for their season, and yet they haven't been able to get it going. They trade for Jonathan Marchessault in the offseason, or they sign him. They signed Stamkos, and it hasn't worked out for them. But I'm hoping for a good defensive effort in this one. Guys, we're going to see if we're going to get Carm back in this one. Hopefully we can get him back. But let's move on to the next game here, guys. Let's move on to the next one here. We'll make it pretty brief, but moving on to the next and last game, Utah. Yeah, Dan. I don't know if you want to hop on with me here, Dan, but Utah and Seattle. The odds I'm seeing right now: Utah on the road favorites minus 135, Seattle plus 115 here, guys. Total at 5.5, but heavily shaded towards the over. So some spots have some sixes available in this game. All right, so when I take a look at this game here, guys, the fact is I think that Seattle has underachieved as of late. This is a team that, for me, I think that they have a lot more to prove, but at the end of the day, they haven't been showing it. So you kind of have to ride with a team like Utah a little bit here. And this is the problem, is that Seattle, to me, seems to have way too many middle-of-the-pack guys, but not enough dominant goal scorers that they can really bring to the table and kind of change the game. They're very good at finding those middle-of-the-pack players, but they don't really have those game changers by any means. So I'm curious what Carm has to say. I believe he is back with us right now. Carm, do you have any closing thoughts on that previous game? And if not, what do you think about Utah and Seattle and the current state of this Kraken team as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I was when my Wi-Fi froze. I just saw a picture of me on the screen there, and it wasn't a pleasant one at that. Andrew, the thing I was saying, just to touch back on that Winnipeg game, because I already told you I like the Preds in the first period, plus 110 on the 2-way line, is things I saw from Ottawa, I'm seeing from Nashville. I think it's a team that you have to play on. Because I think they're starting to get better. I'm going to draw a line through that St. Louis game, and I think that moving forward, I'm going to look to play Nashville because I think you're still going to get them at plus prices. Get them at plus prices on the road. So it's a team that I want to take in many spots. I think they're going to get better. There's a lot of talent on this team. Going to this Utah game, this is one where Utah.
Dan, did we lose him?
Damn, Carmine's working with that Buster Wi-Fi down there in Mexico.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah,
Jeez.
we're having
Carm,
Wi-Fi
you
issues here.
All right,
Carm, Utah, Seattle. Utah, Seattle.
Yeah, Andrew, I know. Hold up. Okay, take it easy. Take a deep breath. Utah, Seattle. It's a play I put up on the WagerTalk site. It's a free play. You can get the comprehensive right up there in the free play section. But I'm going to take Utah in this spot. They were 120 when I released it this morning. They're up to minus 135 right now. It's a team of back-to-back losses at home against some very good teams in Dallas and Colorado. But it's hard to discount the fact that this team is playing extremely well on the road. And you look at some of the teams that they beat on the road in winning, I think 7 straight, and I think eight of the last 10 or 8 of their last 9. Going to Vegas, beating Vegas 6-0. Going to Colorado, beating Colorado. Going to Minnesota, beating Minnesota. They're beating some good teams. And the Kraken, I think, are fortunate. Vancouver fell apart in the last 5 minutes of that game, allowed 3 goals, sent that game to overtime, and Seattle wins that game. I'm not ready to anoint the Kraken are back. Give me Utah minus 120.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Carm. I just think that the Seattle team has the capabilities. They have it in them to be a good team, but as of right now, we are just not seeing it. The inconsistency levels of this team is just something that I can't get behind here. And I know that's coming from someone that's ready to back a Utah team that's lost a few tough games in a row. One of those was against Anaheim, but they did put up 4 goals in that game. But the other 2 were against a Colorado team that's playing extremely well right now. And I told you guys that goalie tandem is going to be really good for Colorado. And Dallas, of course, losing to them 3-2. Meanwhile, Seattle, long term, they've lost to a lot of different teams. They've lost to Colorado, of course. They lost to Vegas. But when you lose to Chicago, Ottawa, and everybody in between, it's something I can't get behind. And I know that the Seattle overall has faced some tough opponents, but at this point, I do not trust them. I don't believe in this team. And I know they, at a large scale, have played better at home, but I can't back them, Carm. Maybe this would be a team total spot, but I do worry about how focused Seattle will be defensively because it's not been going good for them lately. So maybe they will play some good defense. So I'm right there with you. I will take Utah on the road to get the job done. No team total, no regulation. We'll stick with the money line on this one here. I think that for Seattle, I got to see it before I can believe it. I just want to see them string a game or 2 together. Utah, I understand they've not looked good in a couple games in a row. But again, those have been against some elite teams. And Seattle, it seems like they could be playing against anybody. Whether it be Anaheim or Colorado, and they look like the exact same team to me. So I'll take Utah on the road to get the job done. Carm, I think it's a good time to mention that promo code that we have going here. It's still available, and it's available until the January 1st, 2025 strikes, I believe, tomorrow at midnight. And that is Holiday 25% off. Fill your cart, guys. Take advantage of a package from your favorite handicapper, whether you're looking for hockey, whether you're looking for NBA, whether you're looking for UFC, whatever it might be. Could be for soccer as well. Holiday 25 is a great 25% off promo code. You guys can use that up today and tomorrow before it expires. And every package goes back to regular pricing. Don't forget to use that promo code at checkout if you are buying a package today. Back to you, Carm.
Andrew, best bets. since we're talking about, since we finish off the games, and that's all there is to basically talk about, use that promo Holiday 25. I have a 2-pack up in the Premier League that goes this afternoon at 2:45. 3-0 yesterday in the Premier League, so it was a good day there. And a couple of plays up in the NHL as well too. So maybe grab the 1-day all access, use the Holiday 25, and knock $25 off of that. I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably going to have a couple prop plays up in the NFL tonight. My best bet for the show is going to be the Utah game that I mentioned. I have it written down at -125. Is at -135 right now. It's still playable for me. I like this Utah team in this spot tonight, so we'll see if they can get us the money. And then starting tomorrow, a new segment for me, as long as I get the graphics done. It is the Get Dan and Carm to the Super Bowl, because the Eagles and the Bills are going to end up in the Super Bowl. At least that's a hot take. But I am going to do 7 straight money line, even money wagers, rolling it over each and every play, whether it's NHL, football, any sport, even money. And $100 turns into $6,400. And that'll be enough to get Dan to the Super Bowl. And my $6,400 will be enough to get me to the Super Bowl. And then watch Dan cry as the Eagles get crushed by Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. That's my take, Andrew. So give us your best bet and close us out.
You know what? That could be for quite a story. So I look forward to that. Look forward to the new segment. And hey, if my Packers don't sniff the Super Bowl, I hope your teams go there and go head to head. Yeah, Carm, it's not going to be a day with like kind of one big play to advertise. I'm going to have a couple of plays here on this small slate. So it's a really good day. If anybody wants to use that Holiday 25 deal for 7 days, for 30 days, for an NHL package, whatever it might be for me, guys, 15-4. That's my NHL run, my last 19 plays in the NHL. So we've remained low volume. We cashed a plus 110 ticket yesterday on the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was my only play of the day, and hoping for a big night tonight in the NHL. And then tomorrow we got some decent games on New Year's Eve. So my best bet's going to be the under in the Winnipeg Jets and Nashville Predators game, under 5.5. Looking for a defensive game. I expect Nashville to bounce back after a poor performance against St. Louis. Usually after they give up a ton of goals, we see a defensive game in their next one. All right, guys, Winnipeg, Nashville, under 5.5. Multiple plays up for me at WagerTalk.com. And that promo code HOLIDAY25 is applicable for Carmine and myself with every package that we have available, including 7-day, 30-day, 90-day, and full NHL season passes. Enjoy your days, guys. Best of luck, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on PuckTime.